Alors, bienvenue tout le monde à Sans Limite. Welcome everybody at Sans Limite. We have a very special guest today. He is amazing with sponsor relationship. He is no small feat behind the wheel of a car, but if you give him the wheel of a Formula One team, he'll bring some excitement. And I remember the day of Drive to Survive when Christian Horner says, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. Well, this guy is the Gordon Ramsay of F1. Please welcome Zach Brown.
Thanks for having me. Hey guys, how are you?
Great, thanks.
How are you, Zach? So thank you so much for accepting this and to bring some insight of F1 to our Canadian fans and Quebec fan. The first question that we have, obviously, is you took the lead of the McLaren Formula One team, but you came from a background of sponsorship, relationship, GMI. I want to know when you took that team over, obviously there was no sponsor there and the team was not really successful and not competitive. What was the biggest thing that was your challenge when you took the lead of the McLaren Formula One team?
We had a ton of challenges. As you've said, we were at a record low in sponsorship. We'd finished 9th in the championship, which was the worst year in the history of McLaren. Our fans were not happy with us, or what sponsors we did have weren't happy with us, and our employees, the team wasn't in a good place. And I would think that was probably the biggest challenge, was turning 1,000 people around into being a unified team. Because at the end of the day, while you need great technology and great drivers, if you don't have a great team of people that all feel united, I don't care what sport you're in, whether it's motor racing or ice hockey or baseball or basketball, you're not going to play as a team. And we weren't playing as a team. So that was the hardest thing to address and to get turned around, because it's a big boat. So to turn the boat around takes some time. And I think sport is all about momentum, and we had no momentum. So I needed to reverse the negative momentum, create some positive momentum. And here we are 7-8 years later, leading the world championship.
Exactly. Like how difficult it was when obviously you had the pressure, from the driver that wanted a competitive car. Also, within your time at McLaren, you brought Oscar along, and now you have like two number one driver or two drivers that can compete at the number one level. How do you cope with this? Everybody is wondering sometimes, when we watch the Formula One weekends, what's your role in the team when you have to basically navigate between who gets what and how they get treated and all that?
Yeah, it's a great challenge to having two drivers that can win races any weekend when we give them a car that's capable of winning, ultimately compete for the championship. They're two great guys. They both joined us as rookies, obviously at different times, so they feel like McLaren is family. They're the team that gave them both a chance. I think it's all about transparency. It's all about being fair. It's all about treating them equally, even if that means one weekend one's not treated equally because you only have one set of upgrades, or you need to make a decision in a race which might help one driver and compromise another. So it's all about relationship, transparency, and kind of keeping score. So if one weekend one driver gets upgrades because there's only one set available, the next time we might reverse that. And we've had challenges this year because they both want to win, and so when you have them running 1-2, it's not easy. But we've got a great team led by Andrea Stella. We operate as a team. We communicate. We plan coming into race weekends. We don't always get it right, but we're quick studies. So when we do make a mistake or realize we could have done something different or better, we get it right the next time around. So in many ways, while we're a historic team that's been around 61 years, this team is pretty young. Andrea's been leading it for 2 years. So it's a young team with a huge history, which comes with a lot of pressure, but that pressure gets us to perform.
I can't avoid, I mean, Jeff, he's a go-kart driver. I mean, he's a race car driver as well. And we've been talking about it a lot, and I can't avoid coming back in the events of what happened at the US Grand Prix and a little bit talking about the officiating that's happening in F1, right? And during that US Grand Prix, and there's a rule that I really don't like personally, like this rule where, beat me at the apex and whatever happens after. You guys had a penalty with Oscar on the Saturday and the role were reversed.
On the Sunday. And
on the Sunday, you get a penalty with Lando and he's on the other side. I mean, first of all, I want to know, what is your opinion on these officiating situation, but also about the rule in itself, and what do you suggest going forward in the future to make this okay, I'm in front of you at the apex and it's okay if I don't make the corner and I'll push you off?
I think we need full-time stewards for starters. I think the drivers think that. I think the FIA thinks that. It's such an important job. And to have kind of part-time, non-paid, they maybe don't have all the technologies they need. They're not set up for success. I know a lot of the stewards. They're great guys. They know racing. I think Formula One, we have a tendency to over-regulate. So a lot of the times, the decisions that the stewards are making, you talk to them privately, a lot of the times they don't agree, but they're following the rules that have been agreed to, and we have too many rules in place. So if the rule says that person at the apex, even though the steward is a racing driver, a former racing driver, is like, well, driver would have never made the corner. That's not what the rule says. The rule says the car that's to the... So I would like to see us relax the rules, have full-time stewards who are professional racing drivers, which most of them are. They know what's right or wrong. You've been around racing long enough. We've all been around racing long enough to be able to look at an incident and be able to go, here's what's happened. Because I don't think you can create rules for every incident. I think we need to use our racer knowledge, which still means you might be open to interpretation, but I'd rather have trust in stewards that know racing and let them interpret what they think's happened than have rules that are black and white that say if the driver gets to the apex first, all you have to then do is roll off the brakes, get to the apex first, have no ability to make the corner, but by the rules,
that's what it is.
That's the rule. So I'd like to see the rules relaxed, full-time stewards, because that's what's driving what frustrates people is the rules. It's not the officiating, it's not the stewards, it's the rules. And we created the rules. So we've got no one to blame but ourselves because we've signed off on the rules. And I think we got to take a step back. Look, we never had these rules back when I was racing. When you were racing, the rules were a lot more, hey, if you've clearly run the guy off, that's a problem. But otherwise, let him race. I think we need to go back to where we were 20 years ago because we never had these controversies.
Yeah, and I think you're right because, I mean, with the battles that we've seen a lot this year, especially with Lando and Max, I mean, Lando is going on the outside quite a bit, and he's the one guy that is willing to go on the outside when someone blocks him. But this specific rule that you just mentioned makes it where you just have to focus at beating the guy at the apex, and whatever happens at the exit, and he becomes a victim, and I feel that it takes away from the racing.
There's too much pushing each other off the track now, and then with the cars being as safe as they are, you can afford to, kind of rub on each other. So a combination of the rules and the car safety and how safe the tracks are. But I think we all want to see great hard racing, but in between the white lines. And it's just gone too far the other way. But again, I think it's the rules that are the problem, not the officiating, it's the rules.
Correct.
Yeah, I think these rules been there a long time. It's just for example, Max is taking advantage of those rules, rolling too much speed at the apex and running off the other drivers. So that's why I think there should be change.
And you can't have it as simple also as if you're on the outside, you can't push someone off, because then what will happen is everyone will just lunge up the outside and expect the car on the inside to make room when the guy on the outside made. So, like, I think you just got to come back to,
Basic.
I know what good racing looks like. You guys know what good racing looks like. We know when a driver's made a clean pass or pushed them off. And I think we just got to let it be a bit more subjective in the hands of professional stewards who have been professional drivers.
Listen, Zach, we're very lucky to have you, and I can't not ask this question because it's something that we've talked about many times. And with Daniel being laid off at VCarb, right? The question that we've talked about in this podcast many times with fans and with each other is, you worked with him. He was at McLaren before. How can a guy stay on his couch for 9 months and they call him to go to Silverstone, gets in a car, 14 laps later, he basically rides in a lap time that would have put him on the front row. And at that particular time, after being on the couch for 9 months, he impressed everybody that was there. I know like this is difficult to answer this question because we can never say bad things about a person, but what is your personal opinion about, a driver like him?
Yeah, so I've got nothing but great things to say about Daniel. He was awesome to work with. It obviously didn't work out. He never blamed the team. He never blamed the car. He was very honest about he was struggling. So, which is unusual, right? A driver who of his caliber, if they're struggling, it's the car's fault. Change chassis. I don't like my engineer. He didn't do any of that stuff. And we offered change cars, change engineers. And he was like, no, I just need to do a better job. So he was always awesome to work with. We don't really know kind of why it didn't work. In Monza, it did. He outqualified Lando at the first race in Bahrain and then kind of never really got with it again. I think Red Bull, as you know, when you're testing different days, different times, different fuel loads, did he set a time that day that would have put him on the front row? Was it a better day? Who knows? I think probably Red Bull, and I'm guessing now, knows he was an awesome racing driver and probably took some risk going, hey, whatever it didn't work at McLaren, we're going to figure it out and fix it because we know how awesome he can be. And it ended up not working. And so, don't really know why it fell away. He's a very confident, outwardly comfortable guy, but maybe inside, you know what it's like in any sport. If you have too much expectation, you overdrive, and that doesn't work. And then if you're too conservative, that doesn't work. So it's like 11 tenths doesn't work and 9 tenths doesn't work. And he just couldn't find his 10 tenths sweet spot. If he went to 11 tenths, he'd have a problem. If he went to 9 tenths, he wasn't fast enough. And so don't really know why. And he was great to work with. And despite all the media pressure, we ended on great terms. We were very coming back to transparent. We spoke with him through his challenges. We tried. And to this day, I've got a great relationship with him. And it's a shame it didn't work out. I hope after he takes a little bit of time off that we see him back in a race car, whether it's an Indy car or a sports car, because he's great for motorsport.
Great. I have a question for you, Zach. With 3 races to go, like for the Constructors Championship and Drivers Championship, like what's the strategy going in those 3 race weekends? You go a bit more conservative, or you go like all in, try to...
I don't think you can play, it kind of comes back to 9 tenths, just conservative. Yeah. At 9 tenths, you're off the pace. And with how close it is, I think what we need to do is keep doing what we're doing, which has got us to where we are. I think the worst thing we could do is change what's been working. Obviously, with the last race in Brazil, Lando's chance at the Drivers' Championship is, you got to be realistic and go, the odds are far away. But that didn't change the goal. The goal for Lando is going to be win the final 3 races. That's all he can do. What happens to Max? Don't know. So Lando's goal hasn't changed. Oscar's goal of, I want to win the last 3 races, that hasn't changed. But we're in alignment to try and help Lando. But now that Lando's, pretty far away, we'll go into each race weekend. And if, they're running 1-2 and Max is third, that might be one strategy. If Max is a DNF, that could be another strategy. But, we're racing for the constructors. We're not giving up on the drivers. We want to try and be first and second and qualify first and second every weekend. That hasn't changed. And that's what we're going to try and do these final remaining races.
I know you're a very busy guy, and we'll let you go soon. I have one last question for you, Zach, and it's about the relationship that you have with sponsor, and you're great at that. There's also an announcement that came out about the unveiling of cars in 2025. And it brings me to ask you the question about the livery. So how important it is when you guys bring some awesome livery in the season, is it important for you what it does for sponsor? And it's cool for the fans to see all these great McLaren liveries, but is there a point that you're making with sponsor, and is it a request from sponsor to do these things?
Yeah, so it starts with the fan. We want to do something that gets the fan excited. So every special livery, like we did the Senna in Monaco and the OKX, to point back to our historical MP4 livery. So it starts with the fan, because the fan loves these iconic, memorable liveries. Then, of course, the sponsors want to connect with the fans. So they want to be part of that journey because it gives them connection to the fan. Then, of course, it allows you to do special merchandise. The drivers love it. Who wouldn't love to drive a Senna livery car around Monaco? So, we're in the sport and entertainment business. Some people think we're in sport and don't see that as entertainment. I don't understand that at all. Sport is entertainment. You sit down to be entertained by sport. And we have 24 races. So a couple of times a year to do something that's special, that's a nod to our history, or a driver or an event, gets everybody excited, gets everybody talking about it. They then want to go buy the special merchandise. The sponsors get extra exposure. The drivers have a new race suit, which feels cool that they're in a Senna livery in Monaco. And so it's just about bringing some entertainment to our fans at the end of the day.
Listen, Zach, I know you're busy. You have a hard stop. And look, we want to tell you thank you for being present with us. You've done an amazing job. You're creating a lot of excitement with the team that you're running. And whatever you're doing with F1 as well is amazing. So thank you so much for your time. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And go hockey. I'm a hockey guy. So I wanted to talk hockey. See you guys later.
Take care, Zach.
So we just finished the interview with Zach Brown, and obviously, what
Amazing.
A guy,
Humble, calm.
Yeah.
After all he does, all the businesses he manages, he takes the time to talk to us, and it was great.
He's a race car driver. I mean, he has experience in Formula Ford, British Formula 3, Indy Lights. So behind the wheel of a car, he was no small feat. Now he's behind the wheel of
He has a big car collection. I think to this day he still drives a lot. He takes his cars to drive, brings Oscar sometimes, brings Nat Lando on the social media.
Yeah.
So he's very busy.
And I think the fact that he had the experience of being behind the wheel of a car, he saw the scene of being a race car driver. He knows the importance of sponsorship, and with his company, JMI Marketing, when he arrived at McLaren, I can't not stop thinking about his person being very good at bringing that team to the next level, just from all the experience he had.
He's complete, right? He's
driver, marketing, sponsorship,
manager. That's why probably that's the reason why McLaren is so successful now. I
mean, right now, like when I'm thinking about the big step that they have done over the last 2 years, it's kind of like also them that is bringing some excitement in F1, right? I mean,
new challenger,
and also bringing the McLaren brand globally as well. So like his vision is yes, it's racing and they want to win. Like he said, they want to be 1-2 every race, but like he's bringing some input to bring the McLaren brand, like globally to another level. And I think, he was the right guy for the job. I just think that, also he's very influential in the world of motorsport.
Very.
And
IndyCar team, teams everywhere.
And when he speaks about, some of the ruling, right? I mean, it's quite simple, right? Just relax the rules, because every time you put rules, there's a way of like getting around it, and reading it differently. And as long as you respect the rule, if it affects the racing, if it affects the outcome of the race, it will affect the spectacle as well. And like, again, he's all about entertainment. And he thinks that there will be maybe better racing if the rule would be relaxed, and having officials that are like there to officiate, and have proper judgment, because everybody understands what's happening out there. He
even said it. I mean, the way the rules are written, often the officials are previous racing drivers, and they don't agree with it, but they gotta respect what the rules what's
says.
written in the rule book. So the way just to roll in more speed to get in front of the apex before doesn't make sense. That's why I think Zach Brown is talking about like relaxing the rules and trying to soften it up to be more logical about it.
I also think that the race cars these days are more raceable. So,
and safer, like he said.
And safer. So people are going on the outside. People are going on the outside. People like trying all kinds of things. And at the end of the day, if the cars are more raceable, then guys are going to do more things that we've not seen before. The wheel-to-wheel battle are going to happen more often. And the rule has to be modified to adapt to what the wheel-to-wheel battles is right now in Formula One, in my opinion. So we would have less controversial decisions like we've seen at the US Grand Prix and elsewhere. So I think I'm with him, and I'm hoping that he will bring, like his voice, and slowly there'll be some changes with that.
Talking about that, I mean, they announced it today, there's a new race director.
Yes.
That's been, since there was Michael Massey in 2021, then they changed and they rechanged today. Probably that's in the direction trying to change the way sporting the rules. And
yeah, I think everybody is
I think the reason why they did that is to change the way it's managed, I guess.
Yeah, I think this year was a really big year for learning, because 2022, 2023, we have not seen so much.
Because Max was so fast that he didn't have competition. 2021 had competition.
And now we're revisiting in the same situation.
That's when the rules book, they have to go to the rules book because there's too much.
Yeah, we've seen so many things, in 2021 that was Max versus Lewis, like bring guys off the track and so on and so forth. And now we've seen it again, constantly, like with the battles that Lando and Max had together, but also all their drivers as well. There was the controversy about Liam Lawson and the touch he had in Mexico City in turn 2, right? So, I mean, it has to be more clear in the future that, the guys can race, and everybody has the experience. He says, like, we're a racer. We know what's happening. We
know what's wrong. We know what's right.
When there's a rule in our hands and we play around it,
it's just normal to do.
Exactly. So hopefully, like, there's going to be changes with that. There's the, we talked about the livery. Sam was interested about all the livery, the chrome that we've seen on the McLaren, and he mentioned it, that it's for the fans, right? We didn't have the chance to talk about like the budget that it incurs to basically change everything, all these things. But obviously they have it in their plan to first and foremost change these cars and make it like cool for the fans. But also there's all these liveries, there's all these merchandising things as well, and it keeps the tradition, it keeps things alive, like the Senna livery,
racing in Monaco with the Senna livery. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's cool that they're doing that. We've seen it in the past with NASCAR. NASCAR brings like livery for the 4th of July, and when they have sponsorship and association to film things like that with the launch of a film. But there's different timing.
That's a lot of Liberty Media influence onto that, because if you look 10-15 years ago, you've never seen a Formula One team change liveries during a race weekend.
The watching popularity of the F1 is growing like really fast, and I really can see it through like social media, and I really feel like Zach is understanding this since he came from a marketing world, and I was listening to him, and I really realized that he comes from marketing and he understands it, like when he was talking about liveries and how the fans reacted to it. And when you look into the social media, you can really see that they know what the people want in F1, and it's, as he said, it's entertainment. And when you start seeing it that way, I really feel like you see a new way of seeing
I think
F1.
it's very smart because it's a way of connecting with the fans, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
at the end of the day, you go with your team and you're trying to win races, right? And it's like, I'm trying to win. I try to qualify on the pole. But you have like people that like you and people that don't like you. You have people that are fan of you and people that are not fan of you. But as an organization and a brand, if you come up with these liveries and you make people live the era of Ayrton Senna and other things, I think it's how you connect with the fans and you get fans interested and appreciative of what you're doing. So it's a good strategy, and it's good also that they're doing it because it makes the team, the organization, the entity look that they're like in touch with the fans, right, these days. And since, you know, like the Drive to Survive and all the attention that Formula One got over the last couple of years, it became more like, again, entertainment. It's always a sport, and it's always going to be, you know, who wins and who doesn't win. But it's also like the fans start looking at it from a different perspective as well, and not only
racing, it's a show.
Which tire did he finish with? You know, it's so all these things that they're doing outside of just pure racing, to me it feels very important. You know,
it really feels like a reality show.
Yeah,
like when you started to look into it, like it really feels like drivers have their personalities, they have like their fashion ways, like with Leclerc or Hamilton, and you really can see that people are getting interested in way more than just racing. You can see teams going through YouTube channel, they have like challenges and everything. So really see that F1 is growing, and I really feel like it's gonna be growing more and more every year. Yeah.
We didn't touch on the regulation for 2026. That will be a completely just one podcast just talking about the 2026, but we'll try to bring someone that will give us an opinion on what's coming, you know, with 2026, because there's a lot of things in the regulations in 2026 that are going to change the landscape of racing, you know, out there. So it's going to be very interesting to hear the opinion. We'll push it. Now we're in contact with Zach. We'll send him sometimes, you know, some requests via email, and he will be able to answer, and we'll bring, you know, the insight of what's coming. In the meantime, we have 3 races to go,
coming up.
And he mentioned that they're gonna go all in, right? Flat out, all in. One of the question was how difficult it is to have 2 number 1 driver, but these days with the competition being so tight in Formula One, you can't afford not having 2 guys that are fighting at the front with the construction championship being so tight, right? But he also mentioned that it's all about the relationship and making sure honest.
That's the, well, I think it's like anything in life or business. It's all about being realistic, and, you know, when Lando needs to win races, Oscar gives his position, and I'm sure if it would happen the opposite in the next future years, Lando would do the same for Oscar. So it's all about
but I think it's still quite it's still a jungle to manage, to be able to manage that, because I feel that every driver, when they're going to sign a deal with a Formula One team, they're there for themselves. Okay, they want to win, they want to succeed. You know, all the work that they've put into their career to get to that point, they're not there to play second violin to another guy. But
and we all know that the one guy you want to beat is your teammate.
Exactly.
Not all the drivers are gonna say it, but we all know it.
Yeah, and it's also the most fair comparison, because you're in the same equipment, everything. But throughout the year, you'll have some situation where, you know, for example, there's a strategy that doesn't work. It doesn't work. But if you put that driver on that strategy, it opens up, you know, like protection of the first driver, right? So it's I'm pretty sure that it happens many times where guys end up knowing when they do this debriefing with this engineer that this strategy might not work. You know, like if I don't get on this tire to start and this tire to finish, I'm going to be a sitting duck.
Yeah.
But, you know, it must be difficult, like I said, to juggle, to basically get these guys to accept that, because at the end, the team has a, you know, big picture and they overview everything from the top. And then these guys have to accept to go through that. And sometimes it will fluctuate the you know, the attitude that they will have throughout the year, and it basically will affect, you know, the relationship, and it will affect, you know, like the chemistry within the team, you know, and you don't want that. So I think Zach is probably very good at juggling. He's probably doing it very well. I also think that his personality, with the knowledge of being an ex-race car driver, probably when he discussed that with his boys, you know, like
their positions, kind of.
Yeah, and there's a maybe like a respect, a level of respect, you know, like, okay, I talked to this guy is my boss, he's the CEO, but, you know, he knows how to drive a car, you know. So at the end of the day, you know, like you know, when someone talks to you and they're talking to you, but they have no idea what it is to drive a car, and there's, you like, kind of know it, right? So you're okay, you listen, yeah. But at the end of the day, you know, like, this guy knows. So I think it makes a big difference when you have discussions, you know, further and more in depth with what the direction of the team. I think he has that on his side. It must help, you know, when it's time to.
Obviously, what he's doing is working.
Is working for sure. I mean, as a business guy too, you know, like he has a very interesting approach, because he's very hands-on. He looks like he's very hands-on in operating his Formula One team and all that. So. And he seems like to be a very approachable and cool guy. I think so. When you want to pass the message, it helps, you know, when you have that sort of attitude. You know, people are more receptive, and I think that's why he gets everybody he's able to extract the best of everybody. You know, in doing that. I think he was obviously the right man for the job. He was the right man, you know, at the wheel of McLaren, and he proved it. But I think there's a lot of reason behind that. So we wish the McLaren team the best to finish the season. Obviously, winning the construction championship, staying in the lead. Yeah. But we still hope for some spark or some fireworks.
It's not over until it's over.
It's not over until it's over.
3 races to go.
And we will keep you informed, and thank you guys for being here again. Thank you to the Zach. McLaren team and Zach Brown for your time and to help us understand more things about Formula One and to our fans. Thank you so much.
Thank you.